G'day everyone! This week I'm continuing with the plumbing installation in the bus. So last week you saw how I installed the water pump and hooked that up to the taps that are inside the bus, and I also connected that to one of my fresh water tanks under the bus. So I now have running water in the bus, which is very exciting. Now the job for today is to hopefully get this hot water system installed. So this is the hot water heater that I'm going to be putting in the bus. It's an Aqueous Mark II. This is a little 10-litre water heater, and it's specifically designed to go in boats and RVs. Now this particular one is 240 volt only. If you have a look, you may be familiar with the Duoetto, which is made by the same manufacturer. Looks exactly the same as this, but the Duoetto can run on both 240 and 12 volt. So I have plenty of solar on the roof of my bus, and I have a really good lithium battery set up with a 3000 watt Victron inverter. So running things off 240 volt is not really an issue for me in my bus. And the reason I bought this one over the Duoetto was mostly because I knew personally for me that if I got the Duoetto that I would probably be running it mostly off 240 volt anyway. And this one was actually a little bit cheaper, so it just made more sense for me to get the Aqueous rather than the Duoetto. But I'm assuming that the installation will be almost identical. It's just that if you've got a Duoetto, you'll also be connecting that to 12 volt power, which this one doesn't have. So as I said, this is a 10-litre tank, so it's not huge, but I don't have a built-in shower in the bus, so I'm really only using the hot water for the two sinks, so I think this will be plenty for my needs. I'm also very limited in space, so I don't think I could fit a heater much bigger than this in my bus without sacrificing space for other things. So I've already mounted the heater. So it comes with these steel brackets, which I've already bolted to the bottom of the heater, and that's what I'll use to secure it into the floor. You can see it's got your standard power plug for plugging into a 240 volt socket. And on this side, it's got a cold water inlet, so the pump pumps the cold water in, and the heater heats up the water in the tank, and hot water is pumped out through this outlet. So I need to connect those up to the rest of my plumbing system and give it a test. So this is the space under the kitchen sink in my bus, and this is where I'm going to be putting the hot water system. So if you saw my last video, you'll see how I actually had a pump and accumulator all hooked up to the rest of the plumbing in this area. I've just taken those out for now because I need to put the hot water system in behind there. Okay, that's where the hot water heater is going to sit. Now, the problem that I have is you can see where these steel brackets are. Obviously, I can get to the holes at the front here to attach it to the floor, but there's just no way I can get behind there to see or to screw into these brackets that are at the back. So what I've actually had to do is make this floor that everything's going to be sitting on removable. So at the moment this floor is not screwed down into the bottom of the cabinet, it's just sitting there. So I can actually pull it out, secure the hot water system down onto it, and then slide it back in. And that way, if I ever need to get the hot water system out, then I can just pull out, obviously I'd have to disconnect the pump. That's my pump just sitting there at the moment. Disconnect that, take that off, and then I'll be able to slide this floor out to get this off. It's a bit of a pain, but hopefully once this is fully installed and working, I shouldn't ever have to take it out unless something goes wrong with it and it needs to be replaced. So this is not something I'm going to have to be pulling in and out every week. I just had to make sure that I had some way of getting this properly secured down into the cabinet. And that I could remove it down the track if I needed to. Alright, so the first thing I'm going to do is just attach my fittings onto these outlets here to get them nice and secure, and then I'll secure the heater down onto this floor and put it into the bus. Alright, so the heater comes supplied with this particular fitting here, which gets screwed onto the cold water inlet. And what this actually is a little pressure release valve. So if the pressure gets too high inside the tank here, it'll open up this valve and a little bit of air or water or whatever will be pushed out through this part of the fitting here. So this gets connected to a little breather tube, which I've actually already got installed in the bus, so I'll show you that in a minute. But yeah, it's mostly just as a little pressure release so that this doesn't explode. Now, I've got a little bit of a problem with this because as you can see in there, there's no washer. Like if you can see on these little John Guest fittings, you have a look in there, you can see there's a little rubber washer, like seal, inside the fitting. And I'm pretty sure this is meant to have one as well. I'm guessing it probably had one when I first bought this. I've actually had this sitting in my house for quite a while. I bought it ages ago, and it's been shifted around and I've pulled bits out to have a look and so on. So I suspect I've actually lost that little washer. So I managed to get some washers like this from Bunnings, which are kind of the right size. It does sit in there. It's not a particularly tight fitting like you would normally get with a washer, the correct size. So I don't know if it's going to work. Hopefully it'll be enough to just help with the better seal, and this won't leak, but we'll just have to try it and see. So I'm just going to put some plumber's tape on these threads and get it connected up. And then once I've got that connected to the tank, I'm going to use this one, which is a little John Guest fitting. It's got the female BSP thread on one end and the John Guest pipe fitting on the other end. So I'll be able to screw this on to the pressure release valve, and then I can attach my John Guest pipes to that. Alright, well, I hope this is okay. The instructions say that this valve needs to be pointing up when you install it. And I felt like I had to almost over tighten it to get it to be pointing that way. So I hope I haven't buggered anything in there. We'll see. So now I'm going to secure this onto my removable floor and get it into the bus so I can hook it up. Alright, so you can see how I've bolted the brackets down at the front and also at the back there. So let's get this into the bus and get it hooked up. Alright, well there it is, sitting in position, and it's really secure, so I'm happy with that. Once I've got everything else installed back here and I'm happy that it's all working, I can screw this removable floor down into the bottom of the cabinet so it's not going to slide around. So now what I'm going to do is hook up these fittings here. I've got a T-piece here for the cold water. I've got to join up to this one, and the hot water will come around and join up to this one here. And you can see I've already got this little breather hose installed. This needs to get connected on the end of this pressure valve here. And I've got this running under the cabinet here and down through the floor. Just if there is any water that gets pushed out there, it'll go down through the floor to the underneath of the bus rather than inside my cabinet here. So I'm going to go ahead and hook all that up now. Alright, so I've got everything hooked up again. As you can see, I've put my pump and the accumulator back in position. It's all hooked up to my plumbing. So the water should come from the pump here through my inline water gauge up here and come in this way and fill the tank. And then the hot water outlet goes from here up into that pipe there where it splits off to the kitchen and the bathroom. And you can see on each of these outlets I've got a tap so I can turn on or off. And the reason for that is if I ever need to get this thing out to replace it, once it's full of water, this thing holds 10 litres of water. So if I need to take it out, I don't want 10 litres of water running out inside my cabinet. So I'll be able to take it off with these taps, like disconnect at the other side of these taps here, pull the whole lot out so I can turn the taps off if I ever need to get this out. Hopefully I won't have to, but Yeah, that's the reason I've put the taps on there. All right, so now it's time to test all of this and make sure there's no leaks. So the instructions say specifically not to turn on any power to the unit until it's full of water. So the first thing I need to do is just turn the pump on, fill this with water, make sure there's no leaks and it's all pressurizing correctly, and then I'll be able to turn it on and check that it's heating. So here goes. Let's hope I've connected all this up again properly without any leaks. So I'm going to turn my pump on. You can see there's water going through the pump. No major leaks obvious at the moment. So water is filling the pipes in the rest of my system, and it's also now filling this water tank. So far these fittings feel nice and dry. Well guys, it's not looking good. You probably can't pick it up on the camera, but I can actually hear like a little bit of, tiny little bit of hissing or something going on behind here, and it actually feels wet underneath the tank there. And this, yeah, it's a bit hard to see. Just here there's a hot water tap connection that I think is actually leaking. So I don't know if it's actually the tank that's leaking or if it's just that fitting and it was squirting out and running down behind there, but I'm gonna have to pull this out and have a look. Bugger. Okay, you guys, so I've tightened up this tap connection here that was leaking a little bit, and I've reconnected everything. I haven't secured the pump or accumulator or anything down onto the cabinet. They're just sitting there because I just want to be sure that nothing's leaking, and then I'll go and properly secure everything again. So now that I've tightened that, hopefully I can pressurize the system and I won't have any leaks. Okay, so here goes. Pump on. It's filling with water. So far this connection feels dry. Okay, so the pump's kicked off, which means the system is pressurized and this should be full. And I can't hear any hissing or bubbling sounds now. This connection feels completely dry. So hopefully I've managed to fix that. Alright, so now this tank should be full of water. So what I can do now is plug it in and turn it on and check that it's heating up. So I'm going to turn it on at the wall and turn it on here. Okay, so I've got this light here, so that's saying I've got 240 volt power going in. And now if I turn this up, which this is like a temperature dial, so if I turn this up, you can see this light comes on to say that it's now heating. So I might just put that on, oh well, we'll crank it up to high. So now the water in the tank should be heating up. Okay guys, so I'll just show you on my power setup here. So you can see I'm not connected to shore power at the moment, so the bus is running purely off the solar panels. I do have my 2 max air fans running at the moment, but that's the only thing that I've got running other than the water heater that I've just switched on. So you can see that I'm pulling about 915 watts of power from the AC, from the 240 volt circuit. Now the inverter itself uses a little bit of power when it's running, so it usually uses about 17 watts of power. So almost 900 watts of this is what the hot water system is pulling at the moment. And you can see my batteries are pretty much fully charged, almost fully charged, and I'm pulling about 920, 930 watts of solar at the moment, which is pretty good considering where the bus is parked. It's kind of between two sheds and is partially shaded by some trees, so it's not quite optimal conditions, but it's still pretty good. So at the moment, the power for the hot water unit is pretty much all coming from the solar and a little bit from the battery. So I'm pretty happy with that system. Seems to be working well so far. So I'm just going to leave that for a little bit, give it a chance to heat up, and I'll come back and test how hot it is. Okay guys, so the heater's been running for 20 minutes now, and you can see I'm still drawing plenty of power from the solar to run it, and in fact it's actually drawn enough solar to fully recharge the battery while the hot water system is running. So yeah, super happy with that. So good to know that if it's a sunny day, I can pretty much run my hot water system whenever I like, and it's not going to really draw any power from the battery. So very happy with that. Alright guys, I'm going to open up the taps like to hot water and see how hot it actually is. Alright, so I think that's cold. That's fully hot. So I'm going to turn this on now and see what happens. And there's a bit of air in the system. There we go. So that should now be running out. And that, well, that actually feels really hot. Wow. That's nice and warm. Wow, so hot water. Oh yeah, that is super hot. Yay! Just going to test the bathroom one now as well, because I've got a mixer in the back here. Hot. Oh yeah, super hot. Yep, really happy with that. I'll just check to make sure we don't have any more leaks under here. So that connection there feels totally dry. Well, I'm really happy with that, guys. Hot water system is installed. Doesn't appear to have any more leaks. Water is coming out super hot after just 20 minutes of heating, and it was all completely off the solar. Didn't drain my battery at all, so super stoked. So yeah, another job ticked off the list, getting closer to being finished now. So there's still a few little things I need to do to finish off the plumbing. I still have 2 freshwater tanks at the front of the bus that I need to connect up to the pump, and the other big job that I need to do is to install the washing machine, and I think that will probably be the subject of the next video, so stay tuned.